Okay, so just a little while ago, it seemed like Donald Trump held the key to one of the biggest, darkest secrets in America, the Jeffrey Epstein files. I mean, he promised his supporters he was going to unlock it all. But then, and this is what nobody saw coming, he basically threw away the key. So yeah, let's dive right into this whole mess. A promise, a total reversal, and the rebellion that it's kicked off.
Yeah, it really all comes down to this one single question that has totally consumed Washington and, get this, completely baffled his own supporters. So this is the puzzle we're going to try to piece together today. And look, this is where it all began. The promise was crystal clear, right? In front of the whole world, Donald Trump basically positioned himself as the one guy who would finally expose Jeffrey Epstein's entire network of powerful friends. And you know what? His supporters totally bought it. They believed him.
But then, the stunning reversal. Out of nowhere, the administration just announces there's no client list. No evidence of blackmail, basically nothing to see here, folks. So that big promise to declassify everything, to officially make these secret government documents public, was just broken. To really get a handle on this massive backflip, we first have to understand the history between these two men.
Because, before all the political promises and the scandal that blew up everything, there was something much simpler. A friendship. And we're talking about a long, very public, and really well-documented relationship that went on for almost 20 years, all forged in those super elite social circles of New York and Palm Beach.
So let's just walk through how this whole friendship played out. It all gets started back in the early 90s, where they basically become these fixtures on the social scene, the so-called men about town. By the mid-90s, things are public enough that Epstein is actually a guest at Trump's wedding to Marla Maples. Okay, fast forward to 2002, and you've got Trump publicly praising him in an interview. It really wasn't until around 2006, after Epstein's crimes started coming out, that Trump claimed he cut him off, saying he was persona non grata.
And this quote from that 2002 interview, in Trump's own words, well, it really paints a picture of their relationship, years before the world had any idea about the horrifying truth of Epstein's crimes. But that official timeline, the whole story of a friendship that just ended, well, that's now being directly challenged. And this brings us to a really critical piece of the puzzle, an eyewitness account from one of Jeffrey Epstein's very first victims, a woman named Maria Farmer. And her testimony? Well, it completely contradicts the narrative that Trump has been trying to build.
So, Farmer describes this really disturbing encounter she had at Epstein's office in Manhattan back in the mid-90s. She says Trump just walks in completely unexpectedly and is just looking at her with what she called this all-knowing Cheshire Cat grin.
And what she alleges she heard next is, well, it's particularly chilling. As Epstein was leading Trump out of the room, Farmer claims she heard Trump mutter this really strange and very specific comment under his breath. It's an allegation that, frankly, adds a deeply unsettling layer to the entire story. And right there, that's the direct conflict. You've got the White House flatly denying her story, saying the president never, ever visited Epstein's offices. But when Maria Farmer was asked point-blank if the president was lying, her response was immediate and incredibly emphatic. And this contradiction? It has fueled an absolute firestorm, but not from Trump's political opponents. It's coming from his own loyal followers.
Now, this is probably the most surprising turn in this whole saga. The backlash against Trump's reversal, it isn't coming from the usual places, This is an open rebellion from inside his own Make America Great Again movement.
And why does this matter so much? Well, because it strikes right at the very heart of his political brand. I mean, think about it. He was the outsider, right? The truth teller who promised to drain the swamp and expose the entire corrupt system. So, to his followers, hiding the Epstein files, well, it looks like he's become the very thing he swore he would destroy.
And that feeling of betrayal, it's just raw. You can feel it. Some supporters are now looking at this and saying it's a fatal blow to the entire movement, like a line has been crossed that they just can't uncross.
For others, it's just this profound sense of confusion and disbelief. I mean, they feel gaslit. They were promised this huge revelation only to be told it never even existed. That kind of whiplash has left a lot of people just questioning everything.
And for some, that feeling of betrayal has turned into this really symbolic act of defiance. I mean, this quote just captures the depth of that feeling. The single most iconic symbol of their support literally going up in flames. So what does all of this mean for Trump himself?
Well, this whole thing has evolved way beyond just a simple political misstep. This is now a full-blown crisis of credibility, and unlike so many other scandals, this one has really stuck like mud, forcing him onto the defensive and raising some very, very difficult questions about what, or maybe who, he might be protecting.
Which brings us, of course, to the ultimate political question. I mean, Donald Trump has survived 2 impeachments, 91 felony counts, and just countless other controversies. So, the question is, can he survive this one?
So what is the political fallout? Well, analysts are pretty much divided. On the one hand, you've got the argument that this is uniquely damaging, right? It forces him on the defense, it makes him look like he's hiding something, and it makes people think he's protecting either himself or his friends. But then on the other hand, you've got the ultimate survivor theory. And that camp basically says, hey, just look at the track record. His voters don't care about his character. They vote for the change he brings.
Yeah, veteran pollster Frank Luntz, he pretty much concludes that while this is definitely an irritant, it probably doesn't change the fundamental political math. He argues that Trump supporters have already factored in his character flaws. They're not voting for him because of his character, they're voting for a wrecking ball to the system, and this scandal, as damaging as it is, doesn't really change that core appeal.
And so here we are. Donald Trump built this massive political movement on the promise of total transparency against a corrupt elite. But in the way he's handled the Epstein affair, he's created a brand new mystery. And it's one that has his own followers asking if he's now part of the very secret world he once vowed to expose. So the question is, when a promise to reveal secrets just creates a new one, who really pays the price?